Hello and welcome to the StopDevaluation podcast. I'm your host and founder of the StopDevaluation movement, Melody Hilton. The heart of this movement is to see the value in all of humanity and live courageous lifestyles of using our power for good instead of harm. We can affect change by choosing validation over judgment, and I hope you'll take your place and make a positive impact in this world. Welcome everyone to the StopDevaluation movement. And I'm so honored to have Annie Gichurru here. She's a life coach, a producer, and host of Uplifting Studios in Australia. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you so much, Melody. I'm so happy to be here.
You carry such a heart that desires to invest into so many others. But before we talk about those things, could you share with me, because I know you grew up in Kenya, and I've been to Kenya like 10 different times, and it's the most beautiful nation. What was the desire that led you to Australia from Kenya?
Yes. So I was pursuing my tertiary education, and that's what led me to Australia. So I had finished high school, and I was looking to further my education. And it's kind of the norm for families who can afford to send their children abroad to do that for their university studies. And so my brothers had done that. They had gone to England. And when the time came for me, there was that expectation, and I guess a desire for me too, to step out on my own and go and pursue my studies. And so Australia, I don't know, it just felt right. It was, the weather was good. It was a warm city that I'd be heading into, which was Perth, Western Australia. And it just felt right. So study is what brought me here, and I would say the weather.
Did you have any challenges or adjustments moving from one culture to a completely different culture?
Yes, absolutely. We used to watch a sitcom back home in Kenya called Neighbours, which is an Australian sitcom, very, very popular when I was growing up. And I guess for me, I felt like I already knew Australia to some degree, and listening to Kylie Minogue and that sort of music. And I thought, I really do know Australia, but coming here, nothing would have prepared me for the just feeling so different, because there were not many people who looked like me, Melody. I would catch public transport, and I'd be the only Black woman in the bus. I would go for shopping to do my grocery shopping. I would be the only Black woman again. And walking around my neighborhood, I was the only Black woman. So it would take intentional acts, like going to meet up with my Kenyan friends, my African friends, that then I would see other people who looked and sounded like me. So that was something I was really not prepared for at all.
What happened to you emotionally? How did you feel about that?
I guess for me, the grounding came from, having friends that I could spend time with on weekends, that there was a grounding in that there were people who came from where I came from, and we could eat the same food and we could talk about those challenges. But the emotions were deep in that I wanted to belong. I really just wanted to belong. I did not want to stand out. I wanted to blend in. I didn't want to be that noticeable, to catch a bus and be so noticeable, like I'm the only one, the other. So those emotions of feeling like, less than. Yeah. And so wanting to blend in.
You always had a desire to be in media. And so, of course, that's a very public platform, a very visible platform. The times that you felt like you were standing out and not fitting in, and then wanting to be in media, how did you process through that?
Gosh, it was Man, it was layers. It was layers of an, peeling. I like to say, because you dream something, but
Mm-hmm.
until you live it, you really don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's a dream, it's a desire that you have, but you don't know what kind of, setbacks or what lies ahead really to get there. And so, as much as I knew it was a role that was really public, I think it was the desire to be in front of the camera and sharing stories, inspirational stories. I think growing up watching Oprah had really inspired me in so many ways. Just feeling like I want to do what she does. I watch that and I feel good, and I feel like if there's a job like this is what I'd want to do. And not so much thinking of the barriers of that. And I guess the woman that I was seeing was a black woman who, kind of, for me, I could see myself in her.
Yes.
That representation was there. And then coming to a country where there was no black person on television in
Wow.
terms of, the news. And even the shows that we watched back then, we're talking about 20 years ago, because I've lived in Australia for 20 years. So we're talking about 20 years ago, we did not have advertisements with black people in them, and so on. So, on our television, broadcasting the news and reporters and journalists, there was nobody black. And I think to this day, there are, people of color, but I don't think I can say that I do know, a black person who's on television.
So you've become a pioneer.
I well, I guess if you want to look at it from that perspective, but I'm looking at myself as the beginning stages, the early stages. It's an online platform, but yeah, you could say a pioneer in that regard, yes, because that representation and that
Yes.
diversity has not been on mainstream media here in Australia.
So tell me what you're doing now that brings
Mm-hmm.
so much value to women of color.
Well, I am an uplifter. I am an uplifter of migrant women of color. So, women like me who've walked a similar journey where
Mm.
we have been so underrepresented, so underserved, so, underestimated, and just holding that space for them as an uplifter, through sharing our stories of rising, migrant women of color rising. So those are the stories that we don't get to hear on mainstream media, Melody. We don't get to hear the good news stories, the inspirational stories. We tend to hear the stories of struggle. Ours as people of color, and particularly as Black people, is one that is synonymous with struggle. When you hear about migrants in Australia, or immigrants as you call them in the United States, is one of struggle. We got here, we struggled to get here, and I appreciate that narrative is there. But it's not the only one. There are
Yes.
so many of us who came here on our own volition. We came here and we came to study, and we've made this place our home, and we are positively contributing to the nation that is Australia. And the fact that Australia is so multicultural, we have people from so many parts of the world, but it's not depicted on mainstream media. And I just felt there was a gap, a huge gap that really needed to be filled, so that as our next generation,
Yes.
are growing up, my kids and the future generation, they can see themselves represented, in terms of jobs availability. They can see themselves in positions of leadership, of influence,
There you
of
go.
impact. That it's not just, that we are seeing the same narrative, the same story that we see on mainstream media, that this is different. They can see themselves.
What is so beautiful about you bringing stories, that's one reason why I do my stories, because it gives people hope to see those who
Mm-hmm.
rose out of situations and become successful and become value generators and become champions of hope for others. Because within every human being, there is that potential. And when someone can see that inside of them, it can give them that opportunity to release the fullness of what they carry to the world, because we need every person. So I think that's something that probably has led you into being a life coach, correct?
Absolutely, it has. And I love what you say there that, for me, it's you cannot be what you cannot see. And it took me such a long time to get here. It's something that's probably become more apparent to me in the recent years that you cannot be what you cannot see. So back then, when I was trying to get into television and I had the opportunity to, Melody, I had the opportunity to get into television, about 16 years ago, did work experience, loved it. Would have gone back to it and done it as a job. But the fact that there was nobody else who looked like me anywhere that I could see in Australia on the mainstream television, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But had there been the one person, then I was like, oh, this is doable. There's somebody who looks and sounds like me, so I can do this. And that's why with the work that I'm doing, sharing these stories of migrant women of color rising, and through my life coaching, because with the life coaching that I do is helping migrant women of color overcome self-limiting beliefs, because I have walked that journey of feeling less than. When you asked me, what are the emotions you felt when you found yourself here and you there weren't many who looked like you, feeling that you're less than, feeling self-doubt, imposter syndrome, even when you have everything at your fingertips, you're good and great at what you do, you've got the qualifications and then some, but then you doubt yourself and you think, I couldn't possibly. I think it's so important to be able to, hold that space as an uplifter, as a life coach really, and help women, just unshackle, just loosen that grip of whatever self-limiting belief it may be for them. If it's fear of judgment, fear of public opinion, comparison, you're comparing yourself to people who don't look like you or sound like you, or who have had a really, really different past from you, and wondering why you're not at their level. Having those discussions with women and just reminding them that they were made for greatness, that theirs is a unique story and that they're faced with unique challenges, but they have everything within them to overcome.
You are speaking my language. Annie, could you share with us some of the steps to overcome?
Yeah, you see, with coaching is all about, holding that space and asking really powerful questions and helping them find the answers within. With coaching, it's not really directing them and telling them this is what I think you should do. It's really asking them back the questions that probably haven't been asked to them, or they haven't thought of things in that way. So if somebody is experiencing, self-doubt, and they're thinking, Annie, I can't go ahead and apply for that job, and it's just getting to ask, what has led you to think that? What do you think is holding you back? And we begin to unpack that. And sometimes it takes it back all the way to, maybe arriving in Australia and just feeling very different and feeling less than. Or maybe it's taking it all the way back to their childhood and how they grew up. Maybe they grew up in a home where it was, in most African homes, it was, a patriarchy system where, that the men ruled and the women and the children simply followed along, and so it's really getting to the heart of where the issue is and just slowly unpacking that and getting them to work on actions. What do you think you can begin to do now to begin to loosen that grip? Is it, learning more about where that came from in your household and why things were done the way they were done? Is it maybe tuning in to some people that you admire and listening more to them so that your self-doubt can begin to, loosen up? And you can begin to see the greatness in yourself. Maybe it's looking back on your journey and seeing the things that you've accomplished and really telling yourself, yes, I can. Yeah. So it's having those conversations where it's them really digging deep and really finding it in them, because there isn't any one size fits all, or this is the formula, or these are the steps. Really, it's really just having that individual conversation, and just trying to find out where they're at and pulling them, helping them get out. Just showing them the space and the light, and just helping them out. But they've got this.
Simply the things that you've been sharing can be common to every human being, because we all have a propensity not to see our value, not to see our worth, to compare ourselves with others, to see that we're not good enough. And it's so beautiful that you have risen out of those things to really be an entrepreneur, to be that pioneer, to be that one that says, I'm going to stand out from the crowd, because in the process, you are showing others that they too can stand out, that they too can overcome. And I love how you talk about self-limiting, because I think our biggest obstacles are not always external. It's what we believe internally. And when we can overcome them, we can model something different to our world. Before we close, Annie, is there anything that you would love to share with the audience that you think would empower them to be the best that they can be and overcome their self-limiting beliefs?
Absolutely. One thing that I know for sure is that we were all created on purpose and for a purpose. So nobody's just a number. You were not just born to merely exist and just have an average life. No, you were born for greatness. Each and every one of us were born for greatness. There's a purpose that you're supposed to fulfill. There's a mission that you were born here for, and it's only you as a unique individual you are can fulfill that. Nobody else can do it. Only you can. And what's standing between you and fulfilling that mission, that purpose, is your self-limiting belief. And if you can find a way of just loosening that up and allowing yourself to fully and truly be all that you were created to be, then you fulfilled what you were meant to do. That greatness, it's within us all. And greatness comes in different ways. You don't have to be, hold the greatest job in the land. No, it can be the difference that you're making within your family, as a mother, as a sister, as an aunt, or, as a dad. Whatever role you hold, you can make a difference, each and every one of us. So just remember that you were, created on purpose, for a purpose.
That is so beautiful. Annie, thank you so much. You are truly a champion of hope.
Thank you so much, Melody.
I want to thank you for listening and encourage you to become a part of the StopDevaluation movement. Be sure to like and follow #StopDevaluation on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and visit StopDevaluation.com for more information and free resources. You can help spread the movement by sharing with others, leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and most of all, by living a courageous lifestyle of using your power for good. Go out and value someone today. Your life matters, and you can make the world a better place. One word, one choice, one action of validation at a time.